and nullify the Sing that's coming off from this Clefairy. But this is going to be such a hype match. And here we go. We're going to go and start off our final round.
Oh, we got the lead of the Calyrex Shadow Rider accompanied by the Clefairy. You want to have that redirection available. You are facing down a Grimmsnarl and Calyrex Ice Rider, but the Grimmsnarl does not have Fake Out. It cannot disrupt an immediate sort of setup here, although it does have Lagging Tail and Trick. It can maybe take away the Eviolite, but you have to take into consideration the Calyrex face-off.
Oh, exactly. And the Calyrex actually can't do that much to the Grimmsnarl. Can only do Astral Barrage because Grimmsnarl is a Dark type. But of course, the Calyrex Ice Rider on Teemu's side is going to take heavy damage from the Astral Barrage unless it terrestrializes out of that weakness. And I think we are actually seeing that. So Teemu just wanting to protect it, and you know, Francesco switching out that Ice Shadow Rider.
Nice little adaptation here. You want to have Fake Out available in the subsequent turn with that shiny little kitten, of which it does have those great threats to the Calyrex. You know, it has the Will-O-Wisp. Likely gonna want to try to target down and reduce the damage output of this Calyrex. But talking about Calyrex, we have a first Terastallization, and it's the Dragon Terror.
Ooh, a very, very noble looking steed there indeed. Sprouting wings from that Calyrex. It's gonna go straight off with that Glacial Lance. Outspeeding Clefairy, doing a nice, almost half to the Clefairy.
Oh! But the Lullaby does actually miss the connect there. Trying to be a bit cheeky from the looks of things. Spirit Break does actually try to at least break the Focus Sash on the Calyrex from Francesco's side.
Oh, that's actually, you know, a really nice, it's really nice second Spirit Break that we've seen. Not going to do too much to the Incineroar, and also that special attack drop isn't that relevant. I think that was a really good switch out from Francesco's side, recognizing his Shadow Rider Calyrex is not going to do anything against the Grimmsnarl, and he'd rather not take the risk of an Astral Barrage, which is not going to KO the Calyrex right now. So it's better off get that Incineroar in and maybe get that Will-O-Wisp to potentially connect.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we have another attempt at Sing here. This is sort of a strategy where you can enforce this play and play around with the RNG rolls. As the Wisp does connect into the Amoonguss, it will no longer be susceptible to a Sing interaction, which would have guaranteed it being put to sleep. But the Sing connects onto the Grimmsnarl, taking a page out of Jigglypuff's book and taking the microphone apparently as well.
There is a lot of sleep options available on the field. Actually, the Amoonguss is probably very happy to be burned because it can no longer be put to sleep by this Clefairy. And in fact, Amoonguss is going to come in and say, hey, I got the 100% accurate sleep moves. So you can try it and sing all you want, but I'm wearing earplugs right now, so I'm not going to hear your song.
Well done. Very, very nice. And I think it does limit at least what this Grimmsnarl is capable of doing. We do have to take into consideration that Incineroar does have the goggles. It's sort of to the point where Teemu doesn't want to overextend and force a hard switch in, which will be susceptible to a sort of setup read from Francesco if he wants to try to target down a slot. As no switch outs, but we have a helping hand.
Oh, helping hand. Incineroar maybe going for some sort of Flare Blitz. Amoonguss not wanting to take the risk, going for that Protect. Let's see what this Incineroar is going to take. Grimmsnarl just taking a little snooze right there. A little bit of a break, but here we go. The Flare Blitz is going to miss into that Protect.
Yeah, so Protect, a nice little play from Teemu here. Just wanting to guarantee, say, okay, let me just try to see and scout out what Francesco's strategy here is. Are you trying to expect my hard switches here? Or do you want to try to slow play this to the point where we're at an awkward stalemate, you know? We don't have Pokemon that necessarily threaten KOs unless we do have that Amoonguss not terrestrializing and not switching out.
Oh, what a fantastic switch in. The Rillaboom, you know, now both Pokemon on Francesco's side is immune to the Spore. The Grimmsnarl is actually very nice, sitting quite, you know, it's going to wake up this turn and it's going to be able to get that Reflect off, a fantastic Reflect against these two physical attackers. And the Will-O-Wisp going off once again on this Amoonguss.
There we go, Francesco just wanting to try and get a bit ahead of himself there and expect that immediate reaction play from Teemu. And like you quite nicely pointed out there, Zoe, that Rillaboom is now, of course, going to be immune to the Spore focus there. So like we mentioned, a bit of a stalemate where both of the trainers are trying to gauge and force any hard switch reads to be able to essentially be taken. But the Rillaboom can ignore the Amoonguss and at least start getting damage dealt onto the Grimmsnarl slot.
Oh, it can indeed. And Grimmsnarl has now woken up, so it is ready to be disruptive once more. It's holding a lagging tail. I wonder when it's going to start to trick that away. But we're going to see that Amoonguss just switch out. It's not going to do very much right now. And, Teemu calling that and wanting to get something better into it.
Yeah, we're going to have to see if Francesco does try to enforce and be persistent with the Will-O-Wisp into the slot, anticipating that is most likely the slot that's going to switch out. Woodhammer does guarantee a 2-hit KO, at least the range that is, and the follow-up with the Wisp will be able to limit and half the damage output of any Spirit Breaks that come out from the Grimmsnarl.
Oh, wow. The Calyrex switching in for free in that turn there. Grimmsnarl going to get another Spirit Break off. Just, a bit of chip damage at this turn. I think, Teemu might want to think about switching out this Grimmsnarl. It's not really going to do much. It's got its screens up. Maybe might want to set up that light screen in the future so that when the Calyrex Shadow comes back in, the teammates will be protected. So, I can see that Grimmsnarl just staying in for one more turn, but Calyrex now, able to do a lot of damage. Of course, it does have to watch out from a Will-O-Wisp from that Incineroar.
Yeah, that is something that, at least for right now, there's no direct way that Teemu can sort of mitigate that situation from occurring, as we do have a U-turn pivot action going from the Rillaboom, dealing a tiny bit of marginal damage onto the Grimmsnarl, but most importantly, we'll be able to most likely bring in a Pokemon freely, unless they are, of course, susceptible to a Glacial Lance. But it's going to have to be the case for the Calyrex. Does actually avoid the Will-O-Wisp. This is huge, as the high horsepower does put it within range of getting KO'd, but I don't think Spirit Break's enough, unfortunately, but huge critical evasion of that burn there.
Oh, wow, that is amazing. And of course, Clefairy switching in, I think, really helped out its teammate, because that Friend Guard ability reduces the damage its friends, Incineroar is a friend. Its friend took. And Calyrex, just barely missing out on a KO, but now that grassy terrain is able to bring that health back. So, Francesco has managed to slow down the pace of this game, and if he plays it really well, he might be able to get the Incineroar back to a really healthy state.
And I think it's very crucial to identify how reliant both trainers are in terms of board states. You want to be able to position your main sweepers in safely in order to sort of do the thing. Press the button, pick up the KOs where you can, but you need to be able to make sure the board state allows that situation, as Protect from this Clefairy allows the scenario where we've got that immediate redirection available if the Incineroar, for whatever reason, does go down this turn.
Yeah, we can see actually this game is now a lot of both players just trying to jostle for a better position. Because right now, there's no immediate knockouts taking off. Maybe it might be an Incineroar with a helping hand. A Flare Blitz could take out this Amoonguss, because of course the Terror has already been used up by Teemu. So the Amoonguss is going to be, if it stays in and doesn't protect, it might have to take that super effective fire type attack. But I always wonder, if the Incineroar goes for that Flare Blitz, it might actually knock itself out from the recoil.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout as well. And at this point, the Clefairy sort of feels like it's just a sitting duck. There's not much it can do. It can't put anything to sleep via seeing at least these two Pokemon on the field, because they have been burned. So all it can do is try to redirect a bit of action and attention over to its slot. As we do have the Flare Blitz focus into the Grimmsnarl, it will pick up the KO. And because the Grimmsnarl is at such low HP, it's definitely not going to be threatened by getting put into a range where it does get KO'd.
I think that's a really nice turn actually for Teemu, because the Grimmsnarl's already done its job, but now the sleep is going to be put on that Clefairy. So stopping any further disruptive things like Helping Hand, and most importantly, the Follow Me. So now this Incineroar is going to be forced to take an attack from Teemu's side, and it's going to be, the Incineroar of course does outspeed that Calyrex, so it can try and go for another Will-O-Wisp onto that Calyrex before it attacks. But of course, we do see the final Pokemon on Teemu's side. It is going to be that Ting Lu. And depending on how they're trained, we don't know which Pokemon is going to be the stronger one.
Yeah, I think that is a good point to be able to bring in the Team Lu right now. You don't have anything directly threatening yourself. There is the Rillaboom that you at least need to respect if you are the Team Lu, but you do have a couple of options with that. But you need to be able to identify the moment you can bring that Calyrex Ice Rider back in order to dispatch of the Rillaboom. The moment you get rid of that, you should be able to be opened up to more suppression from your side onto Francesco's team.
Yes, I think this Incineroar is the biggest threat to Teemu's side just because it has that access to Will-O-Wisp, and I think Teemu might want to focus fire on that Incineroar. But Incineroar getting for a party shot, just showing it's that it's the faster Pokemon, just getting it out of there, not wanting to have anything to do with this Team Lu, and we're going to see a switch in. So I don't know what's going to switch in, but I think maybe the Rillaboom for that fake out support.
It very well may be, and it is indeed. Good shout. We have the grass terrain as well as a fake out, but something the Team Lu does have in its arsenal is a fissure.
Oh.
And that could very well come out right now if Teemu just doesn't want to play around, but that's not going to be the case. Stomping Tantrum just wanting to guarantee at least a KO onto the Incineroar if for whatever reason it stayed in, or if the Team Lu has been trained to try to outspeed a slowly trained Incineroar as well.
That was a really nice turn for both players. I think Rillaboom getting in virtually for free. In fact, it gained more health from that grassy terrain health regeneration. And Clefairy looks like it's taken, I think, is it 1 turn or 2 turn? I've lost count. But it is, there is a chance that it can wake up this turn. And But of course, as you called earlier, there is the option of a one-hit KO move on that Ting Lu. I don't think Teemu is going to want to click that so early in the game because he has a lot more options at his disposal. But, if things get dire, we might see some buttons being pushed.
Yeah, I think that is the name of the game. And something to consider is that this Ting Lu does have Water Terror as its type, so it cannot forego its weakness to these highly impactful grass-type moves from the Rillaboom. Attack has been dropped on the Ting Lu, not on the Calyrex Ice Rider, as the Incineroar does make its way through onto the field, and we do have a fake-out slot focus into the Cali. No fissure. Guess what? Stomping Tantrum focus into the Incineroar switch. Lovely little play there. Does pick up the KO.
What a fantastic call there. Going for that Stomping Tantrum. It wouldn't have KO'd the Clefairy, but Teemu, catching on to the fact that Francesco is just constantly switching in and out and cycling the Intimidates and the Fake Outs. And now that Incineroar has been taken away, so no more Intimidates. And his Fake Out options have been very limited to that Rillaboom, which can't do too much to the Calyrex. And it's going to be forced to take a super effective Glacial Lance in return if it stays in and doesn't tear off.
At least this is a scenario that Teemu has sort of been trying to find themselves in terms of being able to directly threaten a Rillaboom, whether, let's say, if it doesn't terrestrialize, whilst getting some really good damage onto the Calyrex. But Ting Lu, Vessel of Ruin, will be able to mitigate that special offensive output from the Calyrex, but we do still have that Clefairy in the back, so there's still potential if Francesco can try to get those nasty plots set up.
Yeah, the Clefairy at the back with his ability Friend Guard is going to be really, really helpful for prolonging the longevity of the Shadow Calyrex on the field. But of course, that Ting Lu is also in a lot of danger from that Rillaboom. Wood Hammer in grassy terrain will do a lot of damage, if not just outright take the knockout. And he's already lost his one Dark type, so once this Ting Lu is removed from the field, this Calyrex Shadow is quite free to just start spamming the Astral Barrage.
Yeah, and I think that at least is what Francesco needs to try to direct his path towards, as we will finally have a terrestrialization from Francesco's side, being the Calyrex Shadow Rider into the Fairy typing. It doesn't have a Fairy type move to be able to capitalize off of it. However, it's just more so on being able to avoid any Dark type move focuses into it.
Oh, that nasty plot. Calyrex at +2. It's going to be really scary, but Ting Lu surviving that turn. No grass moves coming out. Super effective U-turn, but that's a bit of chip damage anyway, and leaves the Calyrex Ice very free to go for an attack. But of course, as you called out earlier, the Clefairy is going to switch in and is going to help protect his teammates. And I think the Calyrex Shadow can survive this turn. And So both Pokemon heavily damaged, and the Snarl, a wonderful move coming off from this Tinglu. Now the Clefairy is fast asleep, so it can't actually go for a redirection unless it wakes up this turn. And Tinglu not terribly threatened right now because the Rillaboom is off the field. So, Teemu looking quite comfortable. Of course, I think his Calyrex is going to be in a lot of danger facing off a +1 Shadow Rider Calyrex.
And it coincides quite nicely with that Light Screen now expiring over on Temu's side, whilst, of course, having the grassy terrain benefit of the residual recovery of HP at the end of each turn. Hence why Francesco has thought, okay, I just want to get a bit of recovery back, and if my Clefairy can somehow survive this turn, then at least I can guarantee that I'll survive another Glacial Lance. However, we have the Glacial Lance. It will be picking up the KO and giving this Calyrex Ice Rider a +1 in its physical attack, whilst the Rillaboom will be available for a Fake Out in the subsequent turn.
Oh, yeah, a really nice... Francesco losing that Clefairy, not the greatest, but now the Rillaboom can come in for free, gets that Fake Out off, and you have this Calyrex sitting across the field at +1 special attack. And, it could also just go for maybe another nasty plot if Francesco's feeling bold, but I think at this stage, it's already got a +1 boost. I think it is ready to start attacking. Tinglu can be just nullified this turn with a Fake Out, same as with the Calyrex, but Calyrex can protect, whereas the Tinglu cannot, so that is something that both trainers can take into account.
Yeah, and Vessel of Ruin will at least give a bit of cushion in terms of this Ice Rider, most likely being able to survive even a +2 Astral Barrage, as Fake Out is going to be targeting the Ice Rider. And guess what? Francesco said, right, I'm not going to pick up a KO just yet. I'm just going to get another boost and maybe do that in the following turn.
Oh, wow, look at that. That's Snarl, of course. Bringing Calyrex down one stage of special attack, but because of those two nasty plot boosts, it is at +2, so it is going to be hitting really, really hard. Of course, it can't hit the Tinglu for very much, but that's why you've got that full health Rillaboom, and I think, Tinglu has been left on the field for now. Maybe Francesco predicting that it's not a threat just yet, but it may become a threat very, very soon. And, there is that fissure button, which I don't think Teemu just yet is going to click.
I think there isn't a direct reason to do it just yet, only because the grass terrain has now expired.
Yes.
So you may no longer be susceptible to a combination of, let's say, an Astral Barrage and Woodhammer KO because of the loss of additional base power that you could profit off of because of the terrain.
Yes, indeed. And, terrain going off also means that there's no more recovery for all the Pokemon on the field. Calyrex going
Hello.
One mean horse out there.
Very mean indeed. Whilst the hammer is going to be launched out from this Rillaboom, not quite enough to pick up a KO, but I'll tell you what is. It is the Glacial Lance double KO onto the Rillaboom and the Shadow Rider. And that is the end of game one. We have Teemu in the advantage.
Ice Rider Calyrex says, I don't care how many nasty plots you've got. I don't care how mean you are. I'm the better horse. Get ready to get frozen to oblivion because I'm going to spring out my Glacial Lances.
That's it, all it takes is the board position to be able to be advantageous and allow this Calyrex Ice Rider room to be able to just get the damage. That is why it's there. It needs to be able to capitalize off of it, maybe even snowball, but something I want to identify and call out here, Zoe, is we saw very early terrestrialization from Temu's side with the Ice Rider into the Dragon type, and it just seems like going into a Fire, Water, Grass core, it highly benefits from that because you can force a hard switch if you need to and not be susceptible to any sort of Astral Barrage focuses or Flare Blitz.
Exactly, and also quite interesting that there is a Fairy type on Temu's side, but it is also not Francesco's side, but it is that Clefairy, which, yes, it's a fairy, and yes, it'll hit a dragon type, was super effective, but it also has very little offensive prowess. And paired up again with the Tinglu on the field, that special attack is going to be reduced even further. So, it's not really in a threat. And so Terror Dragon is a very, very safe Terror to go for. And I wonder if that means Francesco might want to think about bringing that Raging Bolt into game two and adapting to that so that if the Calyrex does go into a dragon, there is a super effective Draco Meteor that might be coming off.
I do like that thought very much. Given the fact that it doesn't have Draco Meteor, does mean that there's going to be just a dropped value of base power potential, but Dragon Pulse is still such a good viable move, accompanied by that booster energy, most likely going to be in the special attack stat, but alongside a helping hand, it can really take you far in this matchup.
Yes, and I think, Clefairy being put to sleep in that game 1 also wasn't able to help out Team. It did in that reduced damage, but let's go straight into the game to Clefairy and Calyrex versus the Milotic and the Calyrex.
Yeah, it seems like Milotic got a bit jealous of the Clefairy there in terms of those low accuracy, sleep-inducing turns, as we do have the leads, Milotic, Calyrex, Ice Rider versus Clefairy and the Shadow Rider. So in this scenario, what are we thinking, Zoe? Just Sing and Hypnosis shenanigans?
Oh, well, we're seeing Teemu considering it. Milotic also has Safeguard, so, it can protect any Sings, and maybe that's something Francesco is going to read into, but we're going to see whether or not this Hypnosis or any potential Sings are going to land. I think Francesco is still taking his time to consider out this move. Is he going to go for that Sing? Are we going to see two Pokemon fast asleep at the end of this turn, just snoozing away? But here we go, the Terra, turn 1 coming off once again.
Coming now, and it is going to be the Ice Rider going for the Dragon typing in order to completely ignore and neutralize those super effectively threatening Astral Barrages. But I'm not expecting there to be an attack, I would say. But Francesco has other ideas. Helping Hand, Astral Barrage, maybe trying to catch him out off guard. Is a guaranteed 2-hit KO onto Milotic. It is, even on the Ice Rider. Does it connect the Hypnosis? No, it does not. Clefairy does evade that quite accurately and nicely. Glacial Lance in return does at least guarantee a 2-hit KO even through that Friend Guard.
Oh yeah, that's a really strong, just a testament to how strong the Calyrex are. But now both the Milotic and the Ice Rider Calyrex are heavily friended. There's absolutely nothing stopping Francesco from going for that Helping Hand Astral Barrage once again. I wonder if there is that Ting Lu in the back, and if it does switch in, is that going to help the Calyrex be able to? But actually, we just saw that glimpse, and there is no Ting Lu in the back. Of course, Francesco does not know this, but you know this, and that's something that is quite dangerous for Teemu, is that there is now nothing nullifying the really strong hits coming off from this Shadow Calyrex.
Very good adaptation from Francesco to have a very aggressive approach to this. All you need to do as a Shadow Rider is, if you can guarantee 2-hit KOs and survive that same turn, you can follow up with KOs, or maybe if you force hard switches like now, at least guarantee some damage too.
Yeah, the Helping Hand coming off once again onto this Shadow Rider Calyrex. I think this Milotic is going to go down this turn, but oh no, he goes for the Protect. So keeping himself nice and safe. Grimmsnarl is going to take this Astral Barrage incredibly well, and it's also going to be able to set up a Light Screen in the next turn.
Yeah, wisely done, and I think the fact that you do have those screens available to yourself right now is a really good place here. You avoid having that Astral Barrage pick up the KO, maybe get a cheeky Sing if for whatever reason we feel like the Shadow Rider stays on the field. I don't expect it to. You could even take into consideration the Clefairy wanting to go for Sing. We have the switch out of the Shadow Rider, and Milotic feeling like it may go for the Safeguard.
Yeah, Milotic, getting some health back thanks to the leftover, so I don't think it's in range of a Helping Hand Astral Barrage anymore. So Francesco does have to consider that, and now of course there's that Grimmsnarl on the field. It is going to be an incredibly disruptive Pokemon to Francesco. Could even reduce or nullify the speed advantage that Calyrex Shadow has. But there we go, the Follow Me coming from this Clefairy.
Follow Me with the redirection will at least guarantee no targeting, at least from the Hypnosis, goes with that Cali slot, as the Nasty Plot is going to be setting up over on Francesco's side. A bit of a mischievous situation there. Talking about mischievous situations, Hypnosis does connect, and all of a sudden guarantees a forced sleep turn for the Clefairy in the subsequent turn.
Well, I think that was a really good turn for Francesco, actually, because the Calyrex has gotten up to a posture. Of course, there is that Grimmsnarl, which it cannot touch, and Grimmsnarl doesn't really carry anything that can... I don't believe the Spirit Break from the Grimmsnarl is able to knock out the Calyrex, but, Grimmsnarl can go for that trick which we saw, and Francesco, maybe wanting to protect that Calyrex right there.
Yeah, and I think now that you no longer have redirection available to yourself unless and until the Clefairy does wake up, you're sort of forced in a situation where you have to play a sort of protect the king strategy and ensure your Calyrex Shadow Rider does not fall, victim to that lagging tail interaction, forcing yourself to have the lowest speed turn of the same priority bracket.
Oh, there we go. That lagging tail trick not working against this Calyrex. Rillaboom switching in. It's the second high hypnosis. Oh my goodness. Half the Pokemon on Francesco's team are now fast asleep, taking a nap. But critically, the Calyrex Shadow is not asleep. It is at +2 and it is ready to rock.
My friend Rillaboom, where are you going? You're going straight to sleep. That's where you're going. And being able to capitalize off of that is a very nice play from Teemu. He does acknowledge that there's either going to have to be a switch out or some form of a slot, maybe even just a mishap of a switch from both sides, double switch. But at least right now, correctly identifying that Calyrex wants to stay on the field because of its boost and allow fake out pressure the subsequent turn is a very nice play. So this is going to have to force Francesco's hand, and he's going to have to really consider his best options going into the next turn.
Yes, and Francesco, half his Pokemon are asleep. The Milotic is quite... Both actually, Calyrex and Milotic are slowly getting their health back. Thanks to the grassy terrain, Calyrex, as you called earlier, is going to withdraw. And let's see what Pokemon Francesco brings out next.
Ooh, okay. Francesco doesn't definitely want any other Pokemon to be put to sleep. Does bring in that Clefairy. And most importantly, the trick has now been burnt up onto the Clefairy slot. It will be losing its Eviolite, so being more susceptible to additional damage is the name of the game. But most importantly, the fact that this Grimmsnarl cannot threat the Calyrex Shadow Rider is pretty pivotal.
Oh, that trick Eviolite on the Clefairy actually paying off dividends, because the Milotic is actually connected to Muddy Water, and I think that Clefairy is going to be in range of another Muddy Water. Of course, it will recover some health at the end of this turn thanks to that Grassy Glide, so it might be a little bit of a damage roll, but I think from the looks of it, this Clefairy, if the Muddy Water manages to connect, might be able to go down, and then there's no more Friend Guard and no more redirection for Francesco.
Yeah, and that's sort of the situation that you're in. You need to make sure that you get those KOs as soon as possible, because if you're going to lead yourself into a situation where just right now, as long as Teemu does connect with Hypnosis, it sort of really halters your momentum and progress to the point where you come to a halt. And that's essentially what we're seeing right now. The double connects are so pivotal in this board state situation.
Of course, both Pokemon will eventually wake up from their sleep turns, but there was also an Among Us that I think we saw switching in. So, fully ready to support the team, put everyone to sleep. So I think a lot of these Pokemon are saying, you know what, I want to rest, but it is not the time to rest just yet. We've got one more match to go, and the players need to find out who's going to advance to that day 2.
Exactly. No rest for the wicked, as we have a double switch from Teemu's side now that both of Francesco's Pokemon are still asleep. This is a perfect turn to be able to get the board and say, right, let me flip you straight over and have all of the offensive prowess available to pick up those KOs that I so desperately need.
This is a fantastic position for Teemu. The Calyrex switching in, taking 0 damage. Among Us can just go for a Pollen Puff. Of course, both the Rillaboom and Clefairy have taken their turns off sleep, so they can wake up. Of course, against this Dragon-type Calyrex, I don't think the Rillaboom is going to be able to take that knockout, but Clefairy is going to stay asleep this turn. What's going to happen to that Rillaboom?
Oh, it does wake up, and it goes for the U-turn, as naturally speaking, it couldn't go for Fake Out, given that it was on the field for a couple of turns there, but we do have a pivot going right now. This could be an Incineroar perhaps to be able to take that Glacial Lance quite nicely.
Oh yes, the Incineroar coming in, once again, dropping that Intimidate onto Among Us, not going to be too affected. And then Clear Amulet, a fantastic item for this Calyrex. Glacial Lance coming out easily enough to knock out this Clefairy. No more redirect. Poor Clefairy has not been able to do very much. It slept through the entire battle. Is now
whilst trying to provide regard to its friends, which it did incredibly well, you know, like it paid dividends, but unfortunately for itself, it just wasn't able to move past that, right? And I do like the fact that Francesco wanted to say, I would be rather happy if I had to trade the Rillaboom to get a U-turn pivot going there and ensure that I have Fake Out and the Calyrex Shadow Rider on the field at the same time in order to force out immediate pressure, which is definitely what Francesco needs to embody right now to force a Game 3.
Oh yeah, I think Francesco is still in a really, really good position. There's absolutely nothing stopping him from now going for that Fake Out and maybe a nasty plot. Of course, Amoonguss can start spreading spores. There is that safety goggles Incineroar, which isn't going to care, and also the Rillaboom in that, but Calyrex can get put to sleep. So, you know, there's a lot of mind games going on right now. Which Pokemon is going to get the Fake Out treatment? Or, in fact, is the Incineroar just going to straight up switch out? And, you know, that's a common play that we've seen a lot of top players make.
Yeah, and Francesco could even think about a Will-O-Wisp into the Calyrex and not opt to go for Fake Out, get the setup going, hope to survive. But no, Fake Out is going to be the move of choice into that Clefairy. So we're going to have to see if this Shadow Rider is going to be able to survive this chillingly powerful move from the Glacial Lands. But no, of course he'll survive because the move never comes out. There's a Trick Room instead.
A free Trick Room from that Calyrex. That Calyrex Ice Rider is going to be so happy right now, setting up that Trick Room for its teammate Amoonguss, which is now very free to put the Spore on the Calyrex. Calyrex can, of course, protect or maybe even switch out into the Rillaboom, but if it switches out, it loses that nasty plot boost. But at this stage, maybe that is something that it has to consider because it's just so heavily threatened by the Spore. Of course, Incineroar does have the safety goggles, so it can try and get get the burn on the Calyrex and try and, you know, hit accurately. But that does mean that the Calyrex and the Amoonguss are both free to get their attacks off this turn. And I think we are going to see a Glacial Lance unless Teemu wants to protect this Calyrex from a burn and maybe just trying to scout out what his opponent's going to do.
Yeah, it's generally been a beautiful play, phenomenal board state reworking from Teemu's side, forcing the Kali Shadow Rider to go for the Protect Spore, trying to target down that slot. So speed interactions is going to be key here. Is the Ice Rider fast enough to go for a Stomping Tantrum, I would say, high horsepower, I would say, but it actually goes for the Glacial Lance, not anticipating the Protect there, or maybe thinking the Rillaboom's going to switch in, deals good damage, but the Wisp does connect.
Oh, that is a critical burn on that Shadow Rider Calyrex. Its attack is going to be halved, so this Calyrex, you know, it has a really high chance of now surviving any Glacial Lances. Ice Rider Calyrex is at +1 from that previous knockout, but I think, you know, a burn Calyrex, his damage output is good, but it might just quite lack that punch behind it. And it's now left up to maybe the Amoonguss to maybe try and spore that Calyrex, but Francesco could just switch out his Shadow Rider, get that Rillaboom in, and I think, you know, at this stage, the Ice Rider Calyrex is still a threat, so it's not to be counted out, but Francesco has mitigated damage significantly.
Yeah, it still feels like that Calyrex Shadow Rider slot is pinned down. You've got Spore and Glacial Lands that you have to try to circumvent yourself around given the Trick Room condition. So you either go for a double protect if you're the Shadow Rider, or you try to go for the switch, and there is a double protect. Fails, unfortunately. Does mean Spore will connect in that slot, and it will most likely be followed up by a Glacial Lance too.
Oh, is this Glacial Lance going to take the knockout? Here we go. Glacial Lance, is that enough? And it is not enough. The sliver of health left. Incineroar now. Parting shot onto the Amoonguss. So maybe, you know, maybe predicting some sort of protect there and wanting to just get that Rillaboom in safely. And, you know, Calyrex being able to survive that. Of course, it is heavily damaged. I think in this range, it might even go down to a Pollen Puff from this Amoonguss. That is, if the Amoonguss does not get faked out this turn.
Yeah, and the great thing about the synergy between Rillaboom and Incineroar is you can always incorporate a Protect the King or Queen sort of strategy because you have the fake out rotations going. You got that slow parting shot to guarantee that the Rillaboom doesn't go down to a Glacial Lance because of the speed interactions. However, the Calyrex now having a mandatory guaranteed turn of sleep really is going to be difficult for Francesco to be able to navigate around, maybe forcing him to go for an Incineroar switch, but no, we have the battle cancellation, and that means Teemu is going to be able to guarantee the win into day 2 slot.